We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, we are going to be talking about watches that I would purchase with my own money if I were just getting into watch collecting at different price points. When talking about collecting watches and luxury watches, there's so many different tiers and price points and certain brands that specialize at different segments of the market. I'm going to be sharing these with you, what I would actually add to my own collection. Some of these I've had in my collection, but certainly all of them have come through the doors here at Delray Watch, delraywatch.com, where we might have one or two of these things, but honestly, a lot of these things are pretty hot. It's not all Rolex, by the way. On the wrist today, I have a watch that I absolutely love. This is from Hans for a Christmas gift from him to myself. It's Swiss Reserve. I love this thing. Perfect size. Hans, thank you again for the Christmas gift. I really do appreciate that. I'll try to put a picture here, but Hans, he does make watches, right? He's a master watchmaker, with our service center here. When he does have a little bit of time, he puts together some watches and he has a brand and he's been doing this for decades and he comes up with some pretty cool creations. We'll have to get him on the show another time and have him show you kind of what he comes up with. He actually made one for Federico as well with Guilloche. It's absolutely awesome. Also, please do not forget to check me out on Instagram, The Real John P. That's where you can reach out, send me questions, comments, and I incorporate a lot of those things into these videos. And this is, of course, from a question that someone sent a while ago trying to get into watch collecting. So that's kind of what inspired it. So first off, the first segment, $200. And this is the Swatch system. Now, you can get them a little bit more and a little bit less. When the system came out, the System 51, this was so cool because Swatch was coming out with a fully automatic Swiss watch at, I think when it launched, maybe $120. So you could probably still get the earlier examples out there, but now they have ones that are made out of metal and different versions and different styles and higher quality. And of course, they have some of the originals still out there, but the big thing with Swatch is always kind of the fashion style that they inject into this the Swiss watch industry. And of course, Swatch owns Omega and a lot of the other greats, so they do have the proper machining to come out with great watches. And with the system lineup, it is automatic, but the one thing to keep in mind is it's not serviceable. When this watch has a problem because it's totally sealed, it's not as simple as just working on it. The whole thing is produced by machines, so they actually give you another one. I personally don't know anyone, though, that has actually had to send the watch in to Swatch for service or replacement. If any of you have had to do that out there, I would love to hear about it. These things are rock solid as well. I've owned them and I've worn them in the pool, in the water, and you're not supposed to, right? This is not a dive watch. It's not a watch made for, aquatic activities, but I've done it and seemingly there's been no issues with it. But at this price point, I think it's really difficult to beat this watch. Swiss, automatic watch from a brand or a family of brands that's been in a powerhouse in the industry for the longest time. Awesome pick, number one. Next, $500, and this is the Hamilton Khaki manual wind in 38 millimeters. I think this watch is really cool. I think Federico recently purchased one just for fun. He's always trying out things right on YouTube. He wants to make sure, I think, to incorporate different watches from maybe segments that might not have been on the radar, because while we do sometimes get Hamilton in the door, it's not as frequent as some of the other brands like Rolex and Patek and the others. But I was actually really surprised and impressed by the quality of the watch. I thought the case construction on the Hamilton was up there with Zinn, and Zinn charges several times the price of this $500 or maybe $550, depending on the configuration. But also, this has the same movement that Panerai used in their recent Mare Nostrum release, though of course it's a little bit more modified for them, and they did put a chronograph module in the watch to turn it into a chronograph, but it's using the same movement, so I don't know if I'm really saying great things about Hamilton or perhaps negative things about Panerai, but nonetheless, workhorse movement. I think it's the 2800 series, maybe the 2801 ETA movement, so for $500, really a no-brainer. Next, $1,500, 1,500 US dollars, and this is a Nomos watch, and this is going to be the Nomos Club or the Nomos Club Campus. Nomos has kind of changed the product lineup. They've come out with a couple of different sizes, but I think that it's really difficult to beat Nomos when at this price point. They have in-house movements and something that you just don't see at brands at this price point. Of course, you have Tissot and some of the others that have a quote-unquote in-house movement, but I think Nomos was really the first. And I remember when they came out with the Alpha movement. Before that, they were using the Piguet. They came out with the Alpha movement, and everyone in the watch industry and watch collectors was really surprised and amazed that they were able to do that. And that's when, companies and brands were really trying to figure out this in-house versus off-the-shelf movement thing and really figure out what collectors want. And it turned out collectors wanted this. And so we get Nomos. They come out with this Club Campus, which is supposed to be a little bit more juvenile, or for the younger person, based on the stylings and the more gender-neutral aspects of it, kind of a universal watch, so to speak. But I think it's really difficult to beat this watch. And I'm actually bidding on a charity auction currently for a special version of, I believe it's this watch. Next, we have the Omega Speedmaster at $3,000. Now, I'll admit, to get it on a bracelet brand new, the retail price is going to be higher, but if you hunt really hard, you can find them floating around $3,000, $3,500, and on a strap, if you'd like the leather strap, or perhaps a NATO or some of the other strap or bracelet alternatives, you can find them at that $3,000 price point. I say it all the time, and I'll say it again. The Omega Speedmaster is a watch that needs to be in a collection for those that are looking to have a long-term collection. The Omega Speedmaster from 30 years ago looks like the Omega Speedmaster from today. Now, of course, they're talking about changing up the Speedmaster a little bit, and I'm talking about the Speedmaster Professional, not some of the different versions of the coaxial Speedmasters and the sportier versions and the racing versions. I'm talking about the classic Omega Speedmaster Professional, the one that people sometimes call the Moonwatch, or almost always call the Moonwatch. Sure, they had a smaller version, a straight lug version. You got the Ed Whites and all of that back in the 60s, but now, ever since, 1970 onward, the 145, all the way up into the references they have today, this watch has looked the same, and it's a no-brainer for so many reasons. And, for those of you that are not familiar with the Omega Speedmaster, please type in the search bar, go onto Google, and really see. It's really, without question, probably, with setting aside the Datejust and the Submariner, one of the most iconic watches that you can possibly add to your collection. Next, at $5,000, I would absolutely recommend the Romain Jerome Spacecraft. I'm only kidding, guys. That's a little bit more. I mean, we do have it at Delray Watch. I've fallen in love with the thing, and it's in a collaboration with Elaine Silberstein. Super cool watch, and uses a movement that was built by the same manufacturer that put it into some of the MBF watches as well. A little bit different, a little bit more modified from the MBF land, so to speak. But at this price point, I just had to put that little joke in there. I would actually recommend the Omega Seamaster ceramic bezel, the Seamaster 300. I love this watch. I had one in my personal collection. I had the flat dial, the non-wave dial. Now, current generation is the wave dial, but the specs are comparable. Of course, now the wave dial is a little bit better, but the spec for spec, the wave dial, and I did a video comparison where I compare the Omega Seamaster 300 ceramic bezel with the Rolex Submariner, and it beats it in a lot of categories. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people do not want to hear that an Omega watch beat a Rolex, but Omega has put so much time, energy, and effort into making their products really great, and also delivering for watch collectors what the watch collectors want. Now, for those of you that watch a lot of these videos, I recently made a video where I speculate that maybe Omega is starting to forget about watch collectors. I hope it's not the case, but at least at the time of the launch of this ceramic bezel, Omega Seamaster, they were really caring about what the watch geeks and collectors wanted. I recommend this for a new collector and even a seasoned collector. Next, $10,000, guys, no brainer. Had to put it on the list for those of you that truly are new to watch collecting. I would recommend a Rolex Submariner. Okay, I get it. This is going to be a bit like beating a dead horse. This is something we say sometimes in the States, but what I mean by that is, yeah, it sounds like a broken record. It sounds like something that everyone is repeating, but the fact is, probably the most iconic watch, probably the most recognizable watch, which not everyone wants, but a lot of people do, especially when they're new to watch collecting and they want a watch they can wear, remember forever, and maybe pass down, hand it off, to one of their kids or a family member. So many different reasons to commemorate a special occasion. And so for the Rolex Submariner, it's just not going anywhere. The design is not going anywhere. Even though they came out with a new size, a different profile, Rolex Submariner, currently with the ceramic model from the previous years, it still looks a lot the same, especially to those that might not have as much experience with watches. And so, Rolex Submariner you buy today is going to be extremely relevant in the future, and that's something, and that's kind of an aspect that I look at watches when recommending them to new collectors. Is this watch going to be relevant in 1 year, 30 years, 100 years? And this watch, if watch collecting is a thing 100 years from now and the world exists, people are going to be wearing Rolex Submariners. And lastly, at $20,000, yes, I know $20,000 is a bit of a barrier to entry getting into watch collecting, but some people genuinely get in at this level. It's not everyone, but a recommendation I would tell someone that says, hey, for whatever reason, I did really well with Bitcoin, you name it, I would recommend an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 41 millimeters. Now, of course, they're selling on the secondhand market for a lot more. They just are. This watch has seen such an increase in trading price over the last few years. That's another topic for another time. But if you can get it at retail, you do really well, or maybe you're in a market in the world where you can walk into a boutique, have a conversation with the people working there, establish a relationship, maybe even get something for your significant other. I don't know, but if you can get it at $20,000 and you don't care about immediately flipping it for a profit, this is a watch that is also going to last you, just like the Rolex Submariner. AP has just gained so much notoriety with those that are really not the most in the know in recent times. They've kind of turned into a Rolex in many regard, but at a different kind of niche, a little bit more focused on the movements, a little bit more focused on things that make watch collectors tick. But interestingly enough, they're still attracting those that are not watch collectors, and because of that, it's become probably the third most iconic watch or most desirable watch. If we want to put this behind something like a Nautilus and a Daytona, we have the AP Royal Oak, and they make this in a blue dial, a gray dial, and a white dial. I like them all. The blue dial is going to be really difficult to find, but if you can settle for a gray or a white, and I know it's settling, it's still going to be difficult to get, but if you can get those, I think, and you do enjoy them, really great buys as well. But what do you guys think? What was your first watch? What did you add to your collection? Are there any other watches that you would recommend at these price points or other price points for our new watch collectors out there that you just love and you think that I missed? I would love to hear it in the comments below. Please do not forget to check out delraywatch.com, where just on the other side of the studio wall, we have the team really putting a lot of things together for you guys for the holidays here. A bit of a busy season, and we really do appreciate that. I'm going to try to shoot some more videos here through the holiday season, though we have some tapered schedules here, some different days off for the holidays, different people on the team, and we're all going to be jumping around and filling each other's shoes for a while, so it may be difficult if I do not see you before Christmas. Have a happy Christmas and all the other holidays, as well as a new year, but I am going to try to be shooting some videos here throughout this, at least just to stay in touch and keep the conversation going with all of you guys, because I really do enjoy it. Thanks, guys. You've been chatting with John Pete. Ciao.